Hello everyone, Matt here, and welcome to the second episode of my motovlog, where once a week I go out on a ride and just talk random stuff. The ladder there, can I go? Yep. So if you watched my last episode, which was my first episode, let's squeeze in, yeah, go on. I talked about why I started on a motorbike, or I guess how I started on a motorbike and why I love them. I touched on a little bit on the Honda and you know, why I chose this bike as my first bigger bike after passing my test. But I also mentioned another bike, which is actually the first bigger bike I bought before this one, on the day of passing my full test. So I kind of went through this in my last episode, but if you haven't watched it already, then basically I bought a project bike, and when I bought the project bike I thought it was going to be a simple, you know, oil change, new tyres, good to go. But it was far from that, and that's just being nice about it. Anyways, the project bike is a 1992 Suzuki Gixxer 400R. So I got this bike from my sister's boyfriend, and he bought the bike years ago and was going to do his test on it and didn't end up doing it. Long story short, it sat in his garden for about 10 to 12 years. Now, picking this bike up, I was very naive, thinking that a 1992 carburetted inline 4 is going to be a quick project. You know, I basically bought it in March thinking I'll get it running for summer, which I don't know, if you're a mechanic, maybe that's a achievable thing, but my mechanical skills extend to changing the oil in a car. So don't get me wrong, I love cars and I love tinkering and working on them, but I just never had the experience to kind of sit down and learn the mechanics. So when I bought the Gixxer, it was very much a steep learning curve. By the way, I'm going to throw up some photos as I talk about the bike, and I'll probably do a full series on it, especially this winter time when it's too cold and too wet outside to ride on this. I'll probably jump in the garage and do a series on getting this Gixxer back on the road. Now, there's a lot of things I've already done to the Gixxer, so I can go through that. But let me start with sort of why I bought the bike. And the why is simply, it was a great deal. It was an awesome deal. I paid very little for it, and in my head I thought, right, I can buy a newer bike for a couple of grand, or I can buy this project and spend a couple of grand fixing it up, and it'll be the same thing. Now, it's not the same thing because I've done both things now, because fixing that bike, as I said, it's been a steep learning curve. The biggest issue really with the bike, I mean, I wouldn't mind if it was something that had info on it, but because it's a 1992 Gixxer 400, all of them were imports to the UK. So the first thing was, there's no videos or people working on them, so there's no guides on how to do things, so I had to figure out everything myself. And also, I was about 2 months in until I found the service manual, because the only service manual I could find was in Japanese, and I swear to God I was going to get it translated. And then I found someone deep in the forum that translated the whole thing, but as I said, that was already 2 months in when I've already done a lot of the things. So yeah, it was not easy to figure out, but I've learned a lot, and I would do it again in a heartbeat, because I learned so much. First of all, carbs on a bike, very cool, but a massive pain in the arse. One of my first jobs was stripping the carbs out, so getting the carbs out of the bike. And again, I might throw some pictures on the screen as I talk about this. because I might do a full series on it, so I might get into detail then, but for now I'll just throw in a few images for you guys. Oh, what's going on here? Yeah, so lost my train of thought there. Yeah, one of the first jobs was taking the carbs apart, which again, there was like one video on YouTube and 144p, which again is kind of the reason why I wanted to get the bike, to actually help other people that have this bike and love these bikes to be able to work on them, because there's not a lot of content out there on them. So that was another reason. After the carbs, I mean, I've done the brakes, so the front brakes, rear brakes, they were both seized up. I had to get the pistons out, change the brake discs, change the brake pads. I had to bleed the whole system out again. I had to redo the suspension because it was pitted, so I bought sort of new inner pipes and got them sent to a shop to be replaced. Then they were leaking, I had to send them back, and it was back and forwards. I bought a new set of tyres, fit those on. The chain sprockets were new when he left the bike, so they're a little bit rusty, but they're actually in good condition, so I left them on. The tank seems okay, but currently it's off the bike because I think there might be some issues with the petcock or the fuel pump, the vacuum fuel pump. In fact, I know there's issues with it because it's leaking, so I bought a replacement. I'm going to be changing that, and that's probably going to be a video that I'll post as one of the first things I do to the Gixxer 400, because I think again it might help some other people that are working on these old bikes. But to be honest, I just really love the old school look and feel of the bike. I mean, it took me a long while to even get it running. I had to change the battery, obviously it was dead. Took the carbs apart and got them clean. What else did I do? I obviously put some new fuel in it, new airbox, and all of that just to get it started. And it took weeks and weeks for her to even start up. Now the issue I have now is that when she does start up and runs, she only runs on choke. So with an older bike, you have a choke usually on your left handlebar, and it's kind of a bypass for the petrol to be injected, I guess vacuumed in into the carbs, like sort of manually. You're basically fueling the carbs too much for the bike to run, but you only do that really to kind of start the bike off, from what I've researched and what I know. And you should really turn the choke off after a few minutes, if not seconds, once the sort of carbs start pumping the fuel through the vacuum properly. But mine doesn't do that, mine just dies. If the choke is not on, then the bike doesn't run, which tells me there's an issue with the fueling or the air. Now again, as I said, the airbox I have replaced, and there doesn't seem to be any air intake issues, so it must be the fuel, which I know from everyone on every forum and every post. Everyone's always told me it's the carbs, it's the carbs. Oh wait, it might be the carbs, and I think it is the carbs. So I'm going to get them stripped again, and I'm going to get them properly cleaned in an ultrasonic bath, and replaced every single seal. Before, I didn't replace every single seal because I evaluated the seals and a lot of them were in good condition, so I didn't want to faff and change the original seals to cheaper or aftermarket ones. But now I think, yeah, I'm going to strip it all, replace everything, get it ultrasonic cleaned, and then put it back together. So when I do the carbs, I'm also going to get new fuel pipes, because the fuel pipes I currently have are completely cracked. And I'm also going to add some chemicals to the tank to basically get rid of any potential rust, as well as changing the petcock pump. So the tank is going to be fresh, the petcock is going to be new, the fuel pipes are going to be new, and the carbs are going to be ultrasonic clean. So the whole fueling system is basically going to be redone. and if it doesn't run after that, then I have no idea what I'm going to do with that bike. Probably send it down a cliff somewhere. But I can't wait to get it running because it sounds amazing. I mean, the 400s in the 90s were basically the 600s of today's time. I guess, you know, 2000s, 2010, those 600cc super sport bikes, those nippy, loud, high revving super sports, in the 90s they were 400s, and it revs up to 16,000 rpms. 16,000 rpms. I mean, it's not, you know, as powerful as this bike. This is between 80 to 90 horsepower. That 400 is probably about 60, maybe 65, something like that, if I remember correctly. But it revs up to 60,000 rpms, so it's going to be super thrilling. And again, I can go through the gears without breaking all the speed limits in that 400. So yeah, I really can't wait to get it up and running and share that with you guys, because I think it will be a really cool bike on the channel. And I think also, you know, I'll go to cars and coffees and bike meets, and I've never actually seen another one like in flesh. I've seen a few sort of Hondas from that era, but I've never seen another Gixxer 400. It's probably for a reason, probably because they're shit and they don't run. They're always dead. And but when I do get it running, I hope, you know, I can take it to some meets and it's something cool, something different, something new. Funny story about them not running: when I actually went and drove down south to pick up a seat, because the seats on the Gixxer were also nibbled by rats or dogs or something, there was a new fresh pair of seats. This dude from a Gixxer 400 group I met, and he had two of them, the Gixxers, and two Hondas, all from the same sort of era, 400s and 600s, and essentially both of the Hondas were working, both of the Gixxers weren't, because of the carbs. And that's when I decided that I think I need a Honda. But there's been so much like things I've learned with that bike, so much passion and joy I've put into it. I probably went a little bit too quickly with buying everything like tyres and brakes when it doesn't even move yet. But you know, at least it's there for when it does. I don't have to get those things again, or at least for a while. So yeah, that's the Gixxer 400 project. As I said, I think I really want to turn it into a series on YouTube for you guys, where I basically just go in and do more of a garage style video, maybe similar to this, where I just literally spend an hour or two in the garage, and whatever I can get done on the Gixxer I can get done, or do it in a way where I break it down into different sort of jobs. So when I do the carbs, I'll do a video on that. When I do the fueling, or when I do the brakes, or anything else that I'm doing on the bike, then, you know, I can just make it into a video. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey that I've learned a lot of things. Bought a lot of tools, adjusted the garage to kind of fit the bike, which, you know, as I said, it's going to be a winter project. But we're in October, mid-October, mid to late October, and I'm still out here riding, you know. In my head I thought, when I get this, I'm going to have 2-3 months on it, and, you know, by the end of September this is going to go away and the project Gixxer is going to commence. But actually, it's not been a bad October. I mean, it's been raining today, but it's not that cold. I still got my summer gloves on. It's not constantly raining. So yeah, I'm actually quite enjoying the rides, and I'm going to try to keep doing these every week. Kind of record on the weekend and post on Tuesdays, as I have been, just to give you guys something to watch out on the road. But if you think, like, you know, you've got a bit of time, you've got the space, and you want to get yourself a project bike, then go for it, you know. It's a cool thing, because I've always wanted to work on cars. That's been like my dream, you know, working on cars and figuring out how the engineering works and tuning, and you know, working on body work and body parts. I really wanted to do that, but the issue with that, well, I guess the issue with cars is that you need space. You can't just, I mean, you can work on them outside, but it tends to be quite hard in England, especially with rain and shit weather. You just need the space. You need the space for the tools, you need the space for the parts, and most importantly, you need the space to like leave the car when it's not working. You know, it takes up a lot of space, and it costs way more. Whereas a project bike costs way less, and I can just keep it in the garage and not think about it. You know, I can fit a couple of bikes in the garage, and that's a massive blessing, obviously. But I'm just saying, it's much easier to work on that. What are we doing here? Also, you know, working on the bike has been quite enjoyable because you can kind of get around the bike quite easily, whereas getting underneath a car without a lift, that's another thing that it's a little bit of a pain when working on cars. You need to have some sort of a lift, or you have to manually lift the car up with some jacks every single time you want to do something underneath. You can't just take the engine out yourself, you know. You need a crane, you need loads of different big tools. So getting into like, you know, car modification is definitely like a more of a time consuming, I guess not even time, it's more of a money thing. So yeah, I guess getting into cars definitely takes more space and more money. That's why it's always been hard for me to get into that. But the project bike, you know, it's a different story. And I tried to do everything myself on it. There were a few things that I had to drop it to the garage for, like I said, the forks, the front suspension. That's something I definitely couldn't do at home. But because it's in a garage, I can kind of leave it and come back to it in a month or two, like I have now. And I don't have to get rid of it, because if a car's sitting around for 6 months on my drive, or someone else is parking, you kind of want to get rid of it. Come on. Don't let anyone tell you that, oh, you shouldn't really get anything like a project because you don't know what you're doing. So many people ask me, oh, you know, do you know anything about fixing bikes? No. I'm gonna learn though. That's how you learn. By buying something with a problem and figuring it out and fixing it, you know. You don't learn by telling yourself you can't do it. Because a lot of people told me, what's the point of me getting something I can't do? Well, the point is so you learn. But I quite enjoy learning, and I quite enjoy solving problems. So for me it's quite exciting, but I guess for other people, you know, they just want to get on the bike and go, and that's absolutely fine too. You know, after spending 3 months on the Jigsaw in the garage without it moving a single feet, I did get to a point where I was like, actually, you know, it's June and it's really sunny and lovely, and I actually want to ride. I don't just want to sit in the garage fixing the same issue for the 5th time. So I do get it, and I did, you know, fix that issue by buying this. But I don't want to give up on the project either. I'm going to get that fixed, I'm going to get it running. I'm hoping by next month, whether again I release a series on the Jigsaw or I turn these vlogs into a daily vlog in the garage instead. Let me know what you guys would prefer, and I'm gonna get it running without choke, obviously, so it actually runs off its own engine. I'm hoping to get it running by early next year, so I'll have the whole of November to work on her, and probably most of December too. And then when the new season starts, like February, March, I'm hoping to start getting it on the road. There's a lot of stuff I need to do on her still, like cosmetically as well. A lot of the body panels need remolding or fixing. And to be honest, the bike came with purple wheels, like really cool purple wheels, but the paintwork was black, and I had a hard time finding out like what actual color code it was, because there was a couple of colors from that year, and I had a really hard time figuring out like history of the bike. There wasn't really any history other than what I could find online. There was literally one picture on Google I could find of that bike in that color spec. So I think the wheels are from another color spec to the bodywork. And I want to turn the rest of the bike to that colorway, which looks awesome. It's a long arse light. So yeah, hopefully by early next year you guys are going to see the Gixxer on the road with me vlogging the most sketchiest ride of my life. Everything I've done on that bike I've pretty much done myself, which means stuff is going to probably fall off. And there were moments on that bike where I was really low, when bolts would snap because they're too seized. I'd have to angle grind them out. There was a bolt that got stuck, or that got turned when I was trying to take the brake disc off, the rear brake disc, and that was a fucking pain in the arse to get off, and that was a low point. very much a low point, but we're through that, and we're going to get through a lot of the other problems and learn on it, you know. And by, as I said, about the next year I want to be on it. The bike has like a custom exhaust, so it's really fucking loud too. Like, it's way louder than this. This has got a lot of mufflers because of regulations. It's not that loud, whereas the Gixxer is very loud. It feels like it's just a straight pipe, to be honest. So for revving, you know, a 400cc inline 4 straight pipe, 16,000 RPMs, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something. Let's get into here. Oosh. Yeah, I'm buzzing to get that running. It's gonna be a proper fun little bike. It's not gonna be reliable. It's probably gonna be in the garage more than out on the road, but that's why I got this, you know. And talking about this Honda, I really want to look at getting an aftermarket exhaust, because this one, as I said a second ago, is quite quiet. My friend has the same bike as me, and he's got I think it's a Leo Vince, and it literally transformed the bikes. I mean, this bike with an aftermarket exhaust just sounds like an absolute beast. It sounds like it wants to kill you. It sounds like a proper old school high revving 600 4-cylinder, especially when you get into the revs. There's also an Akaprovich that I know you could get as an option, I think, on this bike. I don't know if you need to cut the exhaust off or in somewhere to get the aftermarket in. I hope not, because if I do, I'd rather just get a full new system. I don't like cutting up original parts of the bike, so obviously I like to keep its value, and you know, to make sure if anything happens I'm insured, etc, etc. So if I do have to cut some stuff, I might just get the full system with new headers. Keep this system on the side for when I need to swap it out for when I sell the bike, or I could always sell the original set or the aftermarket set afterwards. I mean, for me, I wouldn't mind even just getting a used set of full system, just so I can replace it, make for a good video, show you guys how to do it. And also, let's be honest, I think we'll all enjoy this bike if it was a little bit louder. That's something in my review I didn't say. I think this bike is a bit tame in terms of the sound. I mean, you can hear it, it's there, you know, it's just muffled. Like when I rev it up, it's there, it's definitely there. It's just, it's got all the regulation mufflers, so I know it's not at its full potential. But yeah, what else? I mean, there's a lot of things I want to do to this bike, but I'm not sure how long I want to keep this bike. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, and it's been a great bike to learn on. I've still got loads to learn on it, still got loads of boundaries to push, and you know, things to experience. But I don't know how long I want to keep it, so I don't know how much I want to invest into different custom parts and whatnot. I might get a few smaller bits, like a tinted out windshield, you know, tail tidy, those types of things. Oh, well, closed. But I'm still on the fence about the exhaust, because I really do want it, but it's quite a big investment for a bike I might not want to keep for that long. But as I said, I might actually just get a used one and then, you know, sell it if I need to sell it, with the exhaust or without the exhaust. I also might get some custom levers and sort of throttle handlebars. That's it, that's the word. Jeez, check you out. Just to kind of tie in the nice redness. My mate has a set of nice red ones that I think would match this bike perfectly, with the accents of red. And just kind of, yeah, like tint it out. But yeah, just to circle back to my initial point of the motovlog, I got a project bike and I want to show you guys more of it. So I'm thinking whether next week or the week after I might just do a video on basically introducing the bike, show you guys around it. I mean, currently it's got the carbs off, the tank off, the battery out, the bodywork off, the headlight off, so it's pretty much just a metal frame with an engine and the wheels. So there's not much of a motorbike to show, but again, I might put it all back together just to show you guys what it will look like when I'm done with it, and then we'll take it apart again just to fix all the issues, because there are still a lot of issues.